Hi everyone, my name is Mónica Munguía and I am passionate about letter forms and I hope to become a professional typographer in the near future. Currently, I work in my own foundry MomoType, which is based in Mexico. I really appreciate this platform and space that ATypI generously provides to talk about typography design. This is my first talk in English, which I am not fluent in, but I hope to be clear and concise. So let's dive in. The typography project Xantolo is the first custom font that I developed 6 years ago. It all started in my former workplace at the National Center for the Arts, especially the Multimedia Center, a space dedicated to experimentation, training, and research of artistical cultural practice that involves new technologies, formed by different research and production labs. Especially, the project was born from the Virtual Reality and Video Games Lab directed by Luis Romero and in coordination with the Digital Publication Lab where I worked. Initially, my boss Amanda Lemus told me about the project and immediately considered making a custom typeface, which I will take care of and oversee its development. The project consists in designing a typeface for the interactive book Memento Mori. Its output will be digital through the video game in augmented reality using an electronic device, which in this case will be a tablet or iPad, and at the same time a series of patterns that are scanned from the story in its print version. It is a hybrid of the video game, the art installation, and the interactive book. The narrative of this game is similar to the novel by Pedro Páramo, that presents us with a non-linear story where the reader and the player can navigate through various scenarios where they interacted with the characters and the ciphers. And its illustrations are based on the engravings of the Mexican artist José Guadalupe Posada. He illustrated the famous calaveras, verses with an allusion to death that were illustrated with personified living skeletons. Posada portrayed and caricatured all kinds of characters: drunks, revolutionary, politicians, bandits, elegant ladies, charros, and workers. The scene of the sorrows and joys of the people. Factors that had to be taken into account were 1. Printed and digital reproduction. 2. Dialogues and dialogues bubbles with very little content. 3. Spanish language with a basic Latin set with uppercase, lowercase, small caps, numbers, diacritic, and punctuation marks. 4. The style of the font should be linked to the illustration, and the tone of the project is emphatic, made for all audiences who like video games. 5. Its visualization will be on a colored background. 6. Spread the festivity of the Mexican tradition of the Day of the Dead. Analysis of illustrations. The art was by Axel Eneas and the color by Jaime Hernandez. Both themes introduce us to the subject of life and the dead, with a pleasant and warm atmosphere. The character design is quite soft, but the whole settings manage to keep an air of mystery. The graphic relationship between letters and illustrations was the basis for building the typographic system. It was taken into account during the design and sketching to make characters with clear formal differences to avoid confusion and facilitate their recognition. Thus it was proposed to maintain pointing shapes and at the same time rounded shapes which give it a unique personality. These forms can be observed presently in the graphic and visual characteristics of the characters, where we clearly find the forms that were taken to develop the control characters and eventually build the typographic system and the personality of the typeface. Designed to work well in children's literature and short text, it is a humanist semi-sans typeface inspires us to contemplate connotations such as the adornment, since we see in each one of the skeletons the presence of decoration as in the traditional schools for the offerings. Here are a few characteristics we considering while designing the typefaces. On letter review, we found that the printing and the digital version text share some design features. 1. Exaggeration in terminal and serifs. 2. Grand aperture. 3. Low contrast. In 4. In the proportion of the width of the characters in the digital text typeface, it differs gaining in width. However, in print, the characteristics is more condensed or regular to save lines of text. 5. Generous height of X. 6. Short ascendants and descendants. Having established the control character strokes and features, in addition to the characteristic of the type for text, we began to build our typographic system. In this step, we can clearly see the guidelines that structure the height of our font. We took the first version with very extravagant types, and now I wonder at what point did I decide to do it like this. I think I was excited about the project. I believe that by applying it to bodies greater than 12 points, I could get closer to a display design, and I assumed that I could use all the whimsical shapes that I had selected in the illustrations. However, in this new stage of redesign and refinement, I established that it was time to stabilize the system and keep the ornament as in the R and A's letters we are looking at, but in a more subtle way. The contrast was clearly reduced, and the letters G and A become my favorite letters. They have the DNA of the characters, and I feel like they even smile at us. It happens to me a lot that when it comes to designing, I feel that I am personifying typography. This is I try to represent the attitude of the type. I would like to believe that I am not the only one who does these things when designing. At this stage, I also ventured to learn how to use glyphs, and the program made me super friendly, and so far it is my favorite editor. At this stage, I feel that I learned a lot because I have never tried to design a typeface family, and understanding the structure of italics from its calligraphic principles made me realize how much I need to learn, and that the journey in type design is an extremely long process. I also think that the italics that I presently have a huge before and after. I could say that with these fonts I was able to learn whilst having fun. Something that I understand better now is that you have to establish many parameters before starting to design. You have to clearly know the panorama of any typographic project. Parameters. Now we can look at the parameters that were defined according to the analysis and research. 1. Regular width. 2. Low contrast. 3. Large edge height. 4. Vertical stroke with a slight twist. 5. Friendly personality. 6. Comfortable and different shapes. 7. Spanish language. There were three important stages of the project. The first, as we mentioned well, consists of developing the typographic system, its structure, proportion, and features. That is particular style and personality based on the illustrations. This first version was implemented in the Memento Mori project. In making this typeface, I remember Robert Brenhorst saying, "The typographer's one essential task is to interpret and communicate the text, its tone, its tempo, its logical structure, its physical size, all determine the possibilities of its typographic form. The typographer is to the text as the theatrical director to the script, or the musician to the score. In a sense, his words have always been my search in custom projects to understand what he wants to communicate and how I can interpret that in the typographic forms." The second stage took place when I worked at Kike Ollervide's graphic bureau, one of the most recognized designers in Mexico and who had long attended Type and Cooper in New York. I think and see that it was a fortune to learn from him. I could literally sharpen my eye and learn to challenge myself as the designer. At the same time, an option for a master's degree in typographic designs was open in Mexico, and I decided to apply. The idea was to conclude typography from the personal stock, and I went with Xantolo to improve it and turn into a font for the text ideal for children's literature. Its striking personality was established, the contrast was reduced, the height of X was gained with short ascendants and descendants, its proportion was condensed, the twisting of the shafts was more discreet, and the rounded and pointed ends were unified. The uppercase ones had a greater design. The old-style figures set, italic and small caps was designed. A total refinement. Undoubtedly the stage of greatest graphic maturity on the project, and with this second version I conclude the master. The third stage consists of expanding the set for commercialization in a reset foundry. It was developed collaboratively to be able to group the typeface family and add the variables bold and bold italic. It was also fortunate to be reviewed by an expert with more typographic experience, managing to establish weight and vector drawing adjustments. However, this stage could not be concluded, but there was great learning since the inexperience working in a collaborative way made the work not so efficient, but it was part of the process. I think that the most important thing was to understand how to handle the files, learn to work out of time, review the generated settings. Everything was a great challenge. In the end, Xantolo, regular and bold, improved significantly and it looked great. With this talk, I use Xantolo again and to see how fantastic it is. I suppose it is similar to when you see your children grow and mature and they give you singular joy. It seems to me that I will have to dust it off because I keep looking at many details that do not convince me. But which typeface designer is satisfied the first time? It will be that all of us who meet in the guild, we will have these children growing old with one. For now, in what could be a new stage, I think it will be easier for me to solve it. Expand to be multilingual. While visiting Underworld Foundry's website, specifically under the Latin Plus sections, we found a tool that allows us to load our source material or designed characters and learn how much language coverage it has. I think this tool is of great value and seems to be an excellent resource to know what other language we can cover, and it also describes the glyphs that you do not know and even gives you their Unicode number. Many times, as an apprentice, you don't know who to turn to or where to look, and that is where you can start. As the project matured, the Latin Plus coverage was sought with Xantolo, and this tool was of great help. An ambitious goal for this project was that the font could work to write in other indigenous languages of Mexico, such as Nahuatl, thus the graphemas were added in addition to lowercase phonetic capitulars from Chatino, and glyphs such as the Saltillo were added for other languages such as Mije. These represent a completely new series of investigations of these characters. Xantolo has a set of articles designed in English and Spanish that provide the user or designer with these beautiful tools to create more interesting design. I think they look great and were proposed as a sales strategy to make the typography more striking. We can see that we have articles like and, de, bot, or, of, in, for example, and their Spanish counterparts, like las, los, las, en, una, y del. Name context. Xantolo is a Huasteca word introduced into Nahuatl from the Latin phrase Festumhominum Sanctorum, which means Feast of Saints. Among indigenous communities, this is currently the maximum or most important festival, with a higher priority even than big celebrations such as Christmas. The meaning of the festivity is that those from the underworld are present all the time and are very close to the world of the living. According to the Huastecs, the body returns to earth, but its soul remains among the living, and that is why an offering is made where the smell of fruits, music, and the light remembers the moments lived on earth. Award. Among the many satisfactions this project has brought, in 2017 we were honored to have it chosen for the Club Awards International Designs Award in the category Best Font Design for Titles. They are one of the moments that really motivate you to continue designing fonts and understand that it is a often slow process, but perseverance is the main thing. Funny news. Ideal for children's literature texts, packaging, labels, logos, it is a versatile typeface with a great personality. I think that some things that bring me a great amount of joy throughout this long process is to see it applied. And it really pushed me to complete its own. This project has a lot of sentimental value for me because it was my first commission font and also because of everything I had learned and of the great challenge it helped me overcome. Conclusions. Xantolo Designs has been intended to be identifying and representative part of Memento Mori project. The key concepts that help to establish its essence comes from symbolic charge of the project itself. They refer to festivity, tradition, decorating connotations that manage to link the project with its typography. thanks ATypI for all. Goodbye.